Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. Going to get straight into this one. I have with me our European man, as they say, the correspondent, Mr. Eugene. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fine. People were wondering where you got to. People may have thought that maybe you had got kidnapped by some Ukrainian spies and took you away and all the rest of it. So I'm glad to hear that you are with us.
I'm back, and we're ready to break down some news.
Yeah, so I think what's caught Eugene's attention and my own attention is Vlad Zarenko's rather interesting performance over the weekend, getting co-promoted by Usyk. But let's roll the clock back a bit before we talk about now. Let's go back to 2017. For those people who don't know anything about Eugene in terms of his background, his connection, in terms of the Ukrainian connection, Eugene, give people a very quick background about yourself.
So, I started following boxing around year 2010, and well, back then it was still the Klitschko era. So there wasn't really any need for me to mm, put information forward because they were prominent figures, and whatever information was available was pretty much available in both languages, either Russian, Ukrainian, or German or English. So there was no scarcity of information when it came to the most prominent boxers from Ukraine. However, as years progressed, uh, the the boxers changed. It was became more of a Lomachenko and Usyk era. Sorry, with the with very. I've noticed that there would be a lot of information just slipping through the cracks and not reaching to the English speaking audience. So I decided to get involved and help out as I can. I reached out to Ingram and was offering rough translations of their interviews. And from there on, I would just keep an eye on any interesting information that can be of use. And whenever I see something, I'll forward it over to Ingram.
Yes, I'm on mute. Sorry. So thank you so much for your ability to translate what was going in Ukraine and then translate and then us be able to bring that into English and be able to share with our supporters what's going on in Ukraine. And of course, our relationship with James Ali Bashir also helped with Uncle James Ali Bashir with his relationship with Usyk and now with Sirenko. And of course, we were devastated when we both discovered, obviously, that Usyk decided to send a text message over to Uncle Bashir to tell him that he no longer was going to be working with him. So I guess through the times we've covered quite a bit of boxing, haven't we, Eugene, in terms of Ukrainian sport boxing?
Oh yeah, plenty, and there was quite a few things that have never been picked up by anybody else. So I guess that adds to the value.
Absolutely, and more so now because it looks like history is repeating itself. So let's talk about where do we want to go with this? Do we want to go with the Sirenko story first, or or the Usyk story? We can bring the parallels. What do you want to do with this?
We can start with Usyk briefly because we've beaten that subject like a dead horse, but it's worth to bringing everyone up to speed.
Yes.
And the gist of things was that Usyk could not get signed anywhere in the West. He went over to the US trying to get signed. I believe it was 2013, right after the 2012 Olympics. Um, so after the 2012 Olympics, he joined WSB, had quite a bit of success over there, and decided that it's time for the big game. However, being a guy who doesn't speak English, from Ukraine and a cruiserweight, nobody really wanted to have anything to do with him. He was not a promising investment. So he got picked up by Klitschko brothers, and they did quite a good job with him because he became their poster boy. He would get contracts, sponsorship from one of the biggest Ukrainian cell providers in the country, with one of the largest supermarket store chains, and a few security firms. So out of they made locally, they made him kind of a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
As I believe as he was still in a transition period from his amateur years to professionals, for whatever reason he could not stay with Lomachenko Senior, Anatoly Lomachenko, who is
Yes.
trainer of Vasily. Either it was motivated by Lomachenko Senior himself, who wanted to just focus his attention on his son, or logistics, because Lomachenko would be training in the U.S. and when they're going over there in the camp, they cannot, they couldn't cooperate with the. He couldn't spend as much time on Usyk, who would be training out of Ukraine or out of Klitschko camp in Austria, I believe. So Usyk went, and through a little bit of personal experience, he took liking in James Ali Bashir's teachings and working with him, and got signed with him after his first fight. The first fight that he had, he was still under Anatoly Lomachenko. You can see him in his corner on that particular night. And after that, they decided that they have to do something different. So he found James Ali Bashir and started training with him all the way till Machuna fight.
Mm-hmm.
Which Machuna fight, Machuna is an interesting fighter because nobody ever looks good against him.
What makes it worse, I remember at the time that was a time when Bashir was trying to, when people were getting involved in the camp, and Bashir had less involvement in the camp. So at least the last thing you want is be going into a camp with a difficult fight and a difficult opponent and having other ears inside of a fighter's mind. So
That is true.
So I think that
Yeah,
was a
and
bit.
at the beginning, I believe Usyk was not being managed, not promoted by Igis Klimas. Igis Klimas was not involved up until his championship days, I believe. So when they had a brilliant idea of going overseas to the U.S. and trying to win recognition over there, that's where Igis Klimas got involved.
Because I remember Bashir meant to be going into camp with Usyk. Went over to camp. He'd been training early in camp, and the Bashir went over there, and the stuff he saw over there wasn't the same as what it would be. Other things were being put in place, and other people were organising things. So, you're the head coach, but you've got other people trying to run the show, like they know better. People that you could be their grandfather to, they're telling you how to run the show. So at that point, I think Bashir had an idea, had a clue that his services were going to be no longer necessary.
And to bring the point further, the personal relationship between Usyk and Bashir was not just a business relationship.
No, it wasn't.
It was way closer. Usyk, I believe it was right before the Olympics, or when he left for the Olympics, his father passed away, So when he came back, he was no longer there, and he wanted somebody to take pride in his achievement of winning a gold medal. Uh, so Bashir, being a older and well-respected person, was sharing wisdom with him, taking kind of a role of a father figure, putting a
Yeah.
lot of care and attention into his fighter.
Yes.
So supposedly he was he he was like a father to him. However, the way they broke up indicates anything but.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember doing interviews with Uncle Bashir, saying to him, "Have you got to contract this guy?" Kept saying to me, "You know what? Are you sure you're close to this guy?" Yeah, yeah. Me and Usyk could be together for years. We're gonna go and dominate the heavyweight division. So, are you sure? He's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And he trusted. He trusted with his heart. Trusted with his heart. And of course, we all know what happened. The text message was sent through to Bashir, basically saying his services were no longer required, and Usyk coming up with a statement saying that he learned all that Bashir could have taught him. There's nothing more Bashir could have taught him, and I just found that comment quite ridiculous, actually.
Well, and after that, he replaced Bashir with a guy who was assistant trainer and friend uh, friend of Usyk, Sergei Vatamanyuk.
Mm-hmm.
He Their relationship didn't last for long. From the point where uh, they stopped, I believe it was after Machino fight, they stopped cooperating, working together, and next fight was against Michael Hunter, which you could pretty much say that Usyk just threw everything in a kitchen sink at Hunter,
Yes.
and through sheer physicality and experience, he could pull it off. However, he did not look anywhere as slick and composed as he would look against his other opponents. Glovaki fight would be a prime example. A lot of
Yes.
people can say that Glovaki is a slugger or he was never that good, but the amount, the difference in levels that we saw between them was indicative. He would show that level of skill when fighting lower opponents. Sticking to the game plan, he would be getting involved, and Bashir had to remind him in between the rounds to pull back, not stay in the pocket for too long, stick to the
Mm-hmm.
game plan, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore we saw Usyk, who just dismantled Glovatsky in his hometown with surprising ease.
Yes. So I remember. Do you remember the interview I did with Usyk when it was Usyk, Bashir, who's and they had another Dennis.
Denis Berinchik, it's one of his friends. He's a silver medalist, I
Yes,
believe, lightweight or could be super featherweight
and then we
at the
had the
time.
other guy in the room as well, who was the assistant to
Yes,
Bashir.
that's Sergei Vatamanyuk. That's the guy who took over after Bashir got cut.
Wow. So then Usyk
So
moved on, and we see that his style, for me, has not evolved. It's not gotten better. He seems to have regressed. What's your thoughts?
he definitely does not exhibit that skill set, that slickness of movement and calculation of punches. Like a lot of times he gets hit needlessly, and his movement is not as prominent. It's more of a means to an end rather than um, his primary primary tool, something that trumps any other opponent due to the fact that he would have such a superior footwork to them that they couldn't match him.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
Then we can take a look at the Vatimanuk era when he fought Hunter. After Hunter, I believe he fought Marco Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And after Marco Hook, he fought Breedis.
Mm-hmm.
That those last two fights.
What about Gassiev? He fought Gassiev, then he fought Hook, or was Gassiev in the final?
No, for Gassiev was in the final.
Right.
So Hook was the first step in the elimination process, the grid
Yes.
of the tournament. That fight he won that fight, but it was his entire performance looked like he was fighting on his own.
His own skill set, yeah.
Yes, he would have to rely on just experience, on those opponents he met before, and kind of puzzling it together as he went. I've seen this guy throw it like this, move like this. So therefore, choose the most logical, not necessarily the most effective method. It's just something he had to resort to, dig it out of his own game plan.
Mm-hmm.
He would essentially build a game plan as he went.
Well, that's what Lennox Lewis did. You remember Lennox Lewis came out of the Olympics, turned pro, then he got John Davenport as his trainer. From John Davenport, he went to Pepe Correa. But basically, for his career, he said during the Pepe Correa era, he relied very much on what he did as an amateur. And then when he got knocked out by Oliver McCall, he had to go back to school, and Emmanuel Stewart took him on. So sometimes it takes a knockout defeat for people to understand what they actually had beforehand, And
that is the story of Vladimir Klitschko.
There you go.
He was just plowing through low-level opposition throughout Europe. At some point, he would have 13 fights in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when guys are falling over, it's all nice and dandy. But then in '98, I believe he was fighting against, was it
Ross Purity?
Ross Purity, that's right. He was fighting him in Kiev, the only time he fought in Ukraine. And the guy stopped him in round 11, if I'm not mistaken.
9 or 11, one of the two.
Yes. So because the guy just would fight back, he was nothing special about Ross Purity. If you go through his track record, he essentially was a journeyman, but he was that type of journeyman who would not just fall down. He wanted to see where it leads.
Mm-hmm.
And what it found is that if you hit Klitschko back, it gets a lot better than if you let Klitschko hit you. So he won that fight against a guy who was supposedly the next coming of insert the name.
Yes. The next legend of boxing.
That's right. So after that, Klitschko, being humbled, tried to reinvent himself. I believe he had another German trainer up until 2004.
Mm-hmm.
In 2004, he got beat by what was the American?
Yeah, but I think when he got beat by Lamont Brewster, didn't he have Emmanuel Stewart in his corner by then?
I'm not sure if he was. Then it was just a fresh.
He had.
They didn't spend much time together.
Yeah, he had Emmanuel Stewart in his corner. May have just started, but yeah, he had Emmanuel Stewart in his corner. That was the time where he suggested that Lamont Brewster drugged him.
Well, there were things that indicate certain. I don't know if that was Lamont Brewster, but Klitschko became very
fatigued.
How do I put it? They became very control oriented. They became control freaks. Everything around their camp, it was airtight. Like they became like a secret service. Anything that happens in the camp, anyone who goes in and goes out, everything is in very tight control. So you could say he wasn't. You can say he was. Either way, behavior indicates that something not great happened. However, we can only speculate what exactly and who is to blame. It's all in the air.
Mm-hmm. So the reason we're going into Klitschko and talk about Usyk because we're going to bring the the I guess the contrast and the similarities between Mr. Usyk and now Mr. Sirenko. Um, so now Usyk, well, fast forward. Usyk is now cruiserweight champion of the world, moves up to heavyweight, and he's what did people think of Usyk's heavyweight debut, by the way, in Ukraine?
Well, first of all, nobody really looked at his opponent with any kind of approval because well, he's the undisputed champion, right? He held all the four major belts and the Muhammad Ali Trophy, beaten everyone that was in the cruiserweight division, everybody in their backyard, Glovatsky in Poland, um, Marco Hook in Germany, then Bridis in Latvia, and Gassiev in Russia. So he earned a reputation of kind of a road warrior. You know, he doesn't care when, doesn't care where, anytime, any place, he would come
Yeah.
in and do the job. So there were higher expectation to see him. First of all, the fight was against Takam, right?
Yes.
After Usyk got injured, the fight got postponed, and Takam signed with another promoter. I think he's with Bob Arum right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but for some reason that pops up in my mind.
Okay.
So Takam decided to ask for more money, and because he was with another promoter who offered him better opportunities, Usyk had to either comply or Takam would just fight anybody else for the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to find a replacement. So his replacement was supposed to be a kickboxer. What was his name? I can't remember the name of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Spong?
Yeah, a task Sprong. Yeah,
That's
Sprong.
right. But
Sprong
right, was it one day before the fight? I remember they were doing the press shooting, photo
Yeah.
shoot so it must have been the last week.
Mm-hmm.
Spong got Spawn tested positive
He got caught. He
positive
got caught
for.
something. Didn't
That's right. He pissed hot, and they had to find a quick replacement with Chaz Witherspoon. Apparently, Chaz was training at the time, but
he? Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much
Training
training
him.
that. That's right. Maybe he got off a couch 2 times a day.
That's what
Maybe
I
can
thought
do.
of the exercise.
All right. So
So
he fights Chaz Witherspoon, and what we see against Chaz Witherspoon was something that we saw a lot against guys who have a good straight right hand. You know, he would be fighting Bridis. He would be finding that straight hand in his face all night. He fought Bellew. He would be finding that straight right, finding him. And with Chaz Witherspoon, who's not supposed to be on near his level of skill set, after he hit Usyk a few times, Usyk had to change his game plan. He did not like the results of his
the
well.
taste of the punching power of a heavyweight.
That's right. So that fight essentially ended on endurance because Chaz Witherspoon gassed out by round 7, and at that point, a referee stopped the fight, even though Chaz Witherspoon wasn't hurt. It's just he wasn't actively in the fight. He was just covering up, walking backwards.
Yeah.
So that was very very underwhelming performance. That's at least that's what Ukrainian community saw. The other half of the community, the fan boys, so they just forgave everything. Oh, it's he's working himself in. He's getting accustomed. He's building building his mass, muscle mass, getting used to carrying it, and moving with it. So they would give him all the benefits in the world, no matter what.
Hmm.
But I could give them all of that, but the way he got hit is not indicative of him getting accustomed. It's indicative of his technique
Skills regressing.
deteriorating.
Yes, yes, and a lot of people won't see that until it happens, when it's too late. Okay, so that's Usyk for us now. Let's talk about Vlad Zarenko.
All right. So let's bring it back to 2016, 2017. That was the time that Bashir started working with Sirenko. He was his secret project, you know.
Hmm.
And the problem with Sirenko is that nobody, even in Ukraine, wanted to sign him. No minor promotion. He wasn't a gold medalist. He wasn't a well-recognized name. He was just, a nobody off the street that needed a lot of work, and nobody really wanted that kind of business. So Bashir, I believe through his own personal connections, found the promoter in South Africa who would take Vlad and put him in a few fights, give him an ability to start working on his professional career. So the whole reason why Vlad was able to launch his career was through Bashir's personal effort. I believe he didn't have a manager at the time, so Bashir was managing him.
Yeah.
So the whole, he's indebted to him with his professional career to begin with. And after he got a few fights in, about, I don't know, 8 or 9, he got offered to fight in Germany.
Hmm.
So when he fought in Germany,
I just want to give a quick shout out to Rainer Gottwald. He's the German promoter. I just want to give him a shout out because I met him in Germany. Very nice, hospitable man. And it was because of him I got an interview with Pink Tyson as well. So shout out to Rainer Gottwald, one of the promoters in Germany. One of the I think the biggest promoter in Germany, they say, outside of the Sauerlands. So let's continue.
all right. So when he fought in Germany, I read in one of the articles that he got approached by a promoter saying that they're looking forward to working together.
Hmm.
If he's interested, they can offer him good things. And that was the point at which um, Sirenko got interviewed, and he was asked whether he's satisfied with the current trainer, current team. Uh, does he want to change anything now that he's in the big world? He's getting some traction in Western Europe, and he left the door open for that. He said, if life turns that way, that I have to change my trainer. That's what you have to do. That's what you get to do. He he did not defend his current team, saying that, well, I don't have any reason to think about that now, which was first red flag that popped up.
Mm.
That was very mm, calculated, you could say.
Yep. The same red flag. The same red flag when I went. When he was in Germany. Remember, I went to Germany, didn't I? I went to meet him in
That's right.
Germany, and I asked him those questions, and I interviewed him after that, and the red flags were then. You know,
That's
and
right.
then yeah, very odd, very strange. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. So after a while, he got a few fights in Ukraine and a few more fights in Germany. I believe he won one of the regional German titles, like
Hmm.
a German international title or something. Um, and all of a sudden, another thing that I really wanted to point out. If you go through Vlad's social media, he seems to be a member of a certain bodybuilding or heavy lifting gym, and they highlight his physique as one of prime examples of their work.
So,
Now,
what explain that to people who might not get that?
well, it seems that what he does is lifting a lot of heavy weights. He builds up some bulk, and
Hmm.
therefore that should indicate his somehow should translate to his boxing physique, which anyone uh, who's following boxing at any decent level know that just physicality and fitness does not correlate with the boxing ability, and
No, it doesn't.
the ways of training the boxer is way different from ways of training a lifter.
But that goes back to what I said to you about when I did that video about warning Vlad Zarenko, when I saw him training with Bashir, and then I saw his mate doing the pads with him after Mayweather stuff on the pads. And I said to myself, you know what? There's two ways of thinking here. There's the Bashir way of thinking, old fashioned, old school, with lots of wisdom and lots of proven um, techniques, as opposed to this Mayweather thing, which is very flashy but hasn't proven. I haven't seen yet evidence of that combination punching actually working inside a ring. In fact, I've never seen anyone fight like that inside of a ring. So when I see these two things, I'm not surprised. Now, having said that, now you've told me about the whole bodybuilding thing. I'm not surprised that Sirenko will hear and listen to various different ideas and think that if you listen to more ideas, you should be open to new ideas. But sometimes if you open your ears too wide, you start copying a whole heap of rubbish. You need to be able to have a clear what is garbage and what isn't garbage. You just take everything in and you think it's all right for you. When that's what your trainer is meant to be there for. Particularly someone like Bashir, who's been there, seen it and done it. He's seen all the bodybuilders who think they can fight, come through the gym, and he's also seen guys that haven't got big bodies and they can fight. You understand?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, Bashir is proponent of technique over any other aspect,
Style.
being that power or response time, reflexes. It's all about solid technique versus natural gifts that a
Yes.
fighter would have, because one you can teach and the other one you can only enhance.
Mm-hmm.
So now that Sirenko is being recognized back at home, he's being offered fights back at home. He fought a few times. People recognize his name. They tune in to his fights.
Let's not forget about when Bashir took him over to South Africa.
Oh yeah, well that's what I started with.
Yeah.
All right, well that's the only way he could start essentially. Bashir getting him over to South Africa because nobody would care about him and back at home. So now that he's being recognized and people are watching his fights, he starts. You can see the accumulation of fighters happening.
Mm-hmm.
There is another heavyweight, Alexander Zahoji, I believe. He's
Mm-hmm.
6'9" heavyweight from
Yes.
Ukraine, and you can see them uh, together more and more.
Yes.
He's promoted by a German promoter, I believe.
Okay.
Uh, so fast forward to today's date, or should I say more like a few days before. Usyk posts an interview, which is supposed to be just she's up to the thing that he usually does, update what he plans to do, how he spends the lockdown, all the just all the updates to be still in the news. and they start talking about his idea for promotion company.
Mhm.
So the way they have described it is that they don't have any fighters signed just yet. They only organizing the fights, handling the venues, finding the talents, and offering them ability to join the fight night. Be on the card.
Mhm.
Which on one hand sounds well kind of nice. On the other hand, everyone can recognize recruitment when they see one,
Oh, of course.
right? So he dropped Vlad's name 3 or 4 times throughout that interview, which he hasn't done with pretty much any of his other fighters. He mentioned
Let me,
1 or 2 times his other friends.
I also want to add that Usyk and Vlad had been sparring quite a bit.
Oh yes, he's a regular in Usyk's camp.
So that is another thing.
And the interviewer is asking a question to Usyk, like, well, you don't have any fighters signed just yet, but you have a promotional company. Do you have, and like K2 Promotions, the Klitschko brothers company, he's asking, well, they have a poster boy, which is you. You know, they they don't have any other fighter would be on the same level of success. And he admits it that yes, that is true. So the guy is asking him, well, who's gonna be the poster boy for your promotion company? Is it gonna be you? Are you gonna be promoting yourself? Is it gonna be somebody of the young guys? First of all, talking about himself, he says that well, whoever is offering me a better deal essentially will get signed with. So we could speculate that either K2 will decide not to lose their poster boy and offer him something better, or he would get signed with Eddie Hearn, with Matchroom.
Okay.
Um, so when he's getting asked whether he has any ideas of a person who would be the poster boy for his promotion company, he says, "Well, maybe I already do." So he's definitely looking into those guys, and considering how much attention was spent on Vlad, you could
Vlad would be
speculate
the
that that's
guy. Yeah, Vlad would be the
yes,
poster boy. You can see it.
that's right. So now we would have to break down what does that mean for
For
what is
shit.
the whole idea of, well, first of all, yes, Bashir, but then what is the whole idea of having your own promotional company? Why do you have to do it if you're not going to be the poster boy, and promoting your own company?
Hmm.
That would be the whole idea.
Well,
And
that goes back to the gym I was telling you about. Remember the gym?
yeah, absolutely. I believe it's in Oxnard, not in
Yes.
Big Bear, in Oxnard. They
Yes.
have a gym. If I'm not mistaken, it's an old gym that Mikey Garcia no, not Mikey.
Robert
Who is
Garcia.
his Robert Garcia used to own. I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
that's the one.
And 50% is owned by Russ Anbar and 50% is owned by Egus Klimas.
That's right, as well as the sports gear brand Rival.
Rival, yes.
So
You can see how
we
it works. You can see how it works. Usyk's promotional company, that gym where they all have to train in, Rival where everyone has to use the same gloves. Because obviously in that same gym is Lomachenko as well, isn't it?
uh Lomachenko is actually a different story. Lomachenko signed with Venom.
Yes.
He did not um, either did not believe in Rival or decided not to, be actively involved. He may own a percentage of it. We don't know,
Yeah.
but he went the other way and got a signature with Venom, so he decided to take that one.
Hmm.
So they have that gym where pretty much entirety of the stable is from post-Soviet Union countries. They would have Baltic states like Latvia, Lithuania. They would have Central Asia, Kazakhstan, and they would have a few Russian fighters, Ukrainian fighters. Uh, Not sure if they have some Belarusians, but maybe. So essentially, the focus of the gym is to get together all the fighters all the fighters in the U.S. who are coming from the Eastern Europe.
Yes. Yes.
And the only thing that you keep talking about Lomachenko Senior training them all, he does not seem to entertain that idea one bit. It would seem that whoever they're bringing, either
No. Russ Anbar was meant to be the head coach.
yes, Ras Anbar, they brought for Gvozdik, they brought Teddy Atlas,
Yes.
right? Um it's a very much how do I even put it? Mm, well, I guess we can come back to the word calculated.
Yes.
You know, everyone there is there for this gym idea rather than for the fighter.
Yep. And it seems to be that it's not for boxing reasons. It's not for boxing reasons, because how can you get rid of Uncle Bashir and then who you replacing him with?
You want to hear another news, which was rather interesting, and it didn't click until recently.
Yep.
You know how Gvozdik has finished his career after
He retired.
getting stopped by Beterbiev.
I want to let you know that Adonis Stevenson was in no shape physically to fight Gvozdik that night. He wasn't. That's as much I will leave it as that for you that night.
One way or another, it's not the point. The point is that Gvozdik stated his reasoning for quitting as business opportunities. Now, Gvozdik lives and trains out of Oxnard, out of the same gym.
So he could become a trainer?
I don't know if he's going to be a trainer or he's going to be their business partner. But my guess is that he would be involved in that business model. That's his business opportunity, because I cannot really think of what he would be doing, a boxer from Ukraine, you know, with no background in pretty much anything. He would be doing what exactly?
Do you think they're trying to emulate the K2 promotions?
I never saw K2 being this condensed. If you know,
You think
K2...
what K2 did with the Klitschko, well, they had the Klitschko brothers, wasn't it? And the Klitschko dominant. They cleaned that. They didn't clean that heavyweight division, but they had an iron fist on the heavyweight division. With Vitaly or Vladimir, they had that iron fist. You couldn't look at the heavyweight division without mentioning K2 and Klitschko's. So that was the model. Have your own referees, your own judges, keep your fights at home. That's what it was for Klitschko, wasn't it? Your own refs, your own judges, your own doctors, keep everything at home.
Yeah, that seems to be their at least partially like a big chunk for their business model. But I think it's way more. If Klitschko had a tight control, then these guys have not only tight control on what's happening with the promotion, but also with you know, they make it dependent on one location or one gear company, or you know, that I would say it's more with the like same but more, if that's fair.
Yes. Because remember, the Usyk and them would have learned from Klitschko's mistakes. The things Klitschko didn't do well, they would not.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I don't know. I just get the impression that the Klitschko's are a different type of class, different class.
I think the reasoning why Klitschko were doing it and why Rasenbar and Klimas are doing it are completely different. You know, the result might be similar. You know, you could see the patterns, but the reasoning behind it is completely different. You know, one person could be buckling up to, you know, in case of an accident, not to get hurt. The other person is buckling up to be able to drive faster and more recklessly. You know, so my idea for Klitschko is that they were just paranoid and control freaks. Therefore, they needed to have everything domesticated. You know, everything from their own backyard. With these guys, it seemed to be more money driven, another avenue for income.
So what do you think of Igor Klimas and his decision making so far?
Well, it's very when it comes. See, when it comes to lower level, Igis Klimas does not seem to be very interested. When it comes to the championship level, he likes to, well, whenever he's involved, big changes come, right? You would see Kovalev switching trainers over and over and over.
Hold on, let me just bring this in very quickly. I'm going to bring this gentleman in quickly, Ruben Guerrero. I just want to hear your thoughts on this because I know he was the main events and Kathy Duva. That's what I know. Kathy Duva main events did the job with Kovalev. Here's what Ruben's got to say.
Sorry.
Can you see that? Ruben says Klimas did a good job with Kovalev building name in USA.
Well, absolutely, but Klimas is a manager. He's not a promoter. Right? He more of chooses the direction for the fighter rather than
exactly. Where main events, Kathy Duva was the one who pushed Kovalev's name.
Absolutely, and then
Holyfield and many other fighters.
She was actually the person who tried to resolve the issues with John David Jackson because it was not good optics for Kovalev to be in such antagonistic mood towards John David Jackson. But what we saw is that Kovalev went on a tirade talking about how American trainers are shit, and he does not find anyone who would teach him something or challenge him. And you would see throughout his career, he would go from Abel Sanchez, saying that Abel wasn't paying enough attention to him, going to John David Jackson, saying that he was there only to hold the pads. And then he would go to was some guy from Uzbekistan. That relationship didn't last very long. Who is he now with? I think it's an American trainer, but I can't remember.
I think it's an American trainer as well.
Who?
Is it Andre Rosier? Maybe, or maybe, or one of them guys. One of them guys.
We'll have to look it up later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe he's back with a shit trainer. You know?
No, he's with is it Ronnie Shields? Was it Ronnie Shields? He's definitely a black American trainer for sure. For sure.
Yes.
For sure. So just to wrap everything up.
Whenever Klimas gets involved, it seems that trainers change, and the reasoning behind their change is not their ability; it's more their compliance to the certain vision that he's turning the fighters towards.
There's no evidence to suggest that Klimas' vision is any good for the fighters.
Well, nobody said it was.
It might be good for the fighters.
It's just, it might be good for Klimas or for short-term economical return for the fighter, but not for their longevity and for their career.
Just when I bring something else up, Ruben Guerrero also says, and when I looked at it, I just shook my head. But let me hear what you've got to think about this. Ruben says it was only Usyk's first fight at heavyweight. He will grow into the division.
That remains to be seen. You know, maybe. Let's suppose he will. But so far, the sliding that he's on has been
Yeah,
happening for more than one fight. And
exactly.
even though one fight was only in heavyweight, the previous fights did not indicate anything great either. He did
No, all the
dismantle
fights before
Gassiev.
that. Uh-huh.
He did pick him apart dry, but then you need to remember that Gassiev was, what, 24 when he went into that fight? He didn't have nearly as much background, the amateur background as Usyk.
Yes, it is.
And he was trained by Abel Sanchez, which we know, anyone with footwork makes mockery out of Abel Sanchez's fighters.
Yep, that's one. That's true. So, I said I wouldn't look at the Sirenko. I didn't get a chance to see the Sirenko fight, and thank you for showing me the Sirenko fight, because I said that there are things that Bashir was teaching Sirenko: head movement, footwork, defense, and then I said, "Let me watch this video that you sent me." And within the first 30 seconds, no word of a lie, I started shaking my head. First 30 seconds, I started shaking my head. I said, "That's not what Bashir's been teaching him. That is not what they were teaching. Bashir was teaching him." And I'm like, what is Sirenko doing? No head movement, no feints, walking down straight lines, and then within a minute and a half, boom, gets caught with a big right hand by a guy that Bashir warned us was going to bring an element of danger to Sirenko.
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, you know what? After that, I just said, I don't want to see them all this, because I know where it's going. That's just the first fight. And what happens is when you're matched softly, you start to believe your own hype, because you're fighting guys and knocking guys over with a left hook. Oh, boom, guy goes over left hook. Boom, another guy goes over. Oh, you can punch. You got a big left hook. You're great. You're fighting E and F level opposition, so you actually believe you're the man. When you forget there's levels C, B, and then A level, and you ain't fought any of them guys. Sparring in the gym with these guys is one thing. You don't know how heavy a guy's going at you, or how hard a guy's going at you, until you actually have to fight them. You understand? So
absolutely.
Nobody's trying to kill anybody in sparring. Well, they shouldn't be trying to kill anybody in sparring. And Bashir wouldn't have that. So Bashir would have an idea of where Sirenko is, where he needs to be, and what he's working on. What I saw of Sirenko on that video you sent me of Sirenko is basically a guy that is relying on his power and his strength and physicality to try and get a guy out of there. There was no boxing science whatsoever. He looked like a caveman coming out there fighting. And then that guy hit him with the right hand to say, you know what? This is what you're going to get moving forward. Imagine Derek Chisora hit him with that right hand.
He would hit him with another one then.
Jesus Christ.
You see, let's bring it back to Bashir, because we haven't talked about why this whole thing is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know that whenever Klimas shows up, there's big changes coming. All right, it's all the direction of a fighter changes drastically. So
we know what's going on. We know what's next, don't we?
Oh yeah, you could tell, because it already happened before, right? Klimas comes. There is Bashir, who clearly has through his experience, has a vision how to build a fighter, how to give him enough of a challenge and not break him, how to move him, outside of the unnecessary risk too soon. He wants to work with him, see how he's progressing, and add more things on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs direct control over the fighter, to make that because obviously he didn't. He's building him from the ground up. So if somebody interferes, that is not a benefit. That either stalls you or sets you back.
Yes.
So now Bashir becomes the cog that won't budge. You know, he's the guy who does not cooperate. So what they do usually, they just get rid of the guy who is not playing the game.
Absolutely.
So now the question is if Vlad is signing with Usyk and Klimas is getting involved with Vlad, we can pretty much expect Bashir to be on borrowed time over there.
Well, it would serve Bashir right, because I said to Uncle Bashir with Usyk, have you got a contract with this guy? Have you got a contract with this guy? Have you got a contract with this guy? Oh, it's all right. Yeah. Now Sirenko, have you got a contract with Sirenko? Have you got a long-term contract with Sirenko? Yeah, it's all right. Okay. Well, guess what? He's working with another Ukrainian, working with Vladimir Kosuk. He's an amateur. You remember him?
Yeah.
Well, you know what's going to happen with him as well, don't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, here's another thing. You know, the timing could not be any worse for this to happen. Bashir gets attacked in Flint. He cannot travel. He has to be away from his fighter for quite a long time. Meanwhile, Vlad is practically not being overseen by him, so he's training the way he likes to be trained, not the way he needs to be.
Correct.
The fighting opportunities do not present themselves because of the coronavirus, the COVID. So everyone is sitting at home. You cannot travel outside. So now the only way to fight is to fight under the guys who will put you on the card, which is Usyk and his promotion company. So at the time that you would need Bashir to be there the most, he's not there to offer a balanced perspective on things. Skill set deteriorates, and the vision that he had, gets pushed further back towards promises of, I don't know, big fights, bigger paychecks. And it all points towards that, if things don't change, which they probably won't, they will end up cutting Bashir loose. And he will lose another guy he spent, over 3 years invested into. He was saying that my current focus and investment is Vlad. Okay, well, if Vlad is gone, where did all of that go?
That's what happens when you don't put contracts in place. I tried telling Bashir about it. Uncle, if you're listening, no disrespect, and it's out of respect because I love you. But I just told you the truth. Make sure you got contract. These guys that say that they love you, if they love you that much, sign the dotted line. Sign the dotted line and show me how much you love me. Sign the dotted line. Don't trust them until they sign the dotted line. When they sign the dotted line, then you'll see how much you love, and then and the release clause. See now, imagine if Bashir had signed the contract with Usyk and said, right, the release clause is at least, if you're going to be released, it's going to cost you $1 million to release or 3.5 million to release Usyk. Then okay, Usyk can go his way, but that's 3.5 million you've got in the bank.
No.
Do you understand that?
That's right. And you have, even if, personally it's uncomfortable when this thing happens.
No. There's no uncomfortability with getting 3.5 million afterwards. There's no uncomfortability.
No. Hold on a second. It's one thing when you're just doing a job. The other thing when you're building a legacy, essentially.
But I know you say that. I haven't said all of that. If you've got that contract in place, it's a different relationship all again. because you
Well,
now got a relationship of trust, real trust.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you have a contract and things keep working out, it's even better, right? So because
Yeah,
he's not there only for the paycheck, he
of
could
course.
sign off quite a bigger gym and start raking that cash. It's just he wants to have personal relationship with his fighters.
Yeah, have personal relationships, but make sure you got your business
That
hat on.
that is absolutely true.
So you can still give that love and attention, but no, you've got, hey, you rascal. I learned from the Usyk situation. If it happens again, then just imagine now if Bashir had that contract on Usyk's ass now. Do you think Klimas
Hmm.
becomes make Klimas, regardless if Klimas liked him or dislikes him? If he wants to whisper his there, it'll cost you 3.5 million, mate. 3.5 million of whispers. You understand?
Absolutely.
Or 4 million of whispers, or 5 million of whispers.
Yep.
I bet you're not so quick to whisper then. But you could take a horse to water. You can't make him drink. You can take a horse. You might be a great trainer, but business wise, that is make good. That is make not. That's not once, twice. Or you're gonna let Vladimir Kusuk do the same thing to you as well? I don't know, Eugene. I
Hmm.
don't know. I guess we just have to wait to see the announcement to come out that Sirenko leaves Bashir to train with Teddy Atlas or something like that. And the way he got clipped the other day and got rocked,
Oh
they'll
yeah.
probably blame Bashir and say, Bashir's not that good a trainer. It's not working out anymore. That's sort of a Klima spin. Oh yeah, he got rocked in that fight. Didn't look very good. We thought we should bring somebody else in instead. Teddy Atlas would make a good trainer with Sirenko.
It's been 3 years and he's getting this much trouble with this level of opposition. Time for a change.
Yeah. You see, it's coming. The spin doctor's coming. We just got to wait and see it. Because these people move, these snakes move the same all the way, same way, all the time. So we just got to wait and see what happens. But I'm sure we'll hear something soon enough. Let's ask this question. Do you think Zarenko will be with Bashir this time next year?
This time next year, if things continue going the way they're going, no. Because if Bashir doesn't get involved and essentially get close to Vlad
Even
and
if he does
start,
get, yeah, but even if he does get close to Vlad, what does that mean? He was close to Usyk, wasn't he? He had a close relation with Usyk that he did with Vlad.
yeah. But what I'm saying is assert the control over the camp, over the training process, because right now he's over in America, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So Vlad is off for himself.
Yeah.
The only thing that would sort of stop that is that if Vlad had so much respect and admiration for the work of Mr. Bashir, that he would consult him on every step of his professional career. But it seems that he seems to think of himself as a guy who's growing up and things are going his way. So maybe it's him that is so awesome and not the guy who made the whole thing happen in the first place when nobody really wanted to, when Vlad was like a leper and nobody would want to approach him.
Absolutely. So it'll
So
be
yeah,
interesting what happens. It's going to be very interesting what happens. But
absolutely.
we
Interesting and disturbing. We don't want to see the same thing happen. It's like a reoccurring nightmare.
yeah, but how do you change that? How do you change that recurring nightmare? You know,
You can't really change the the tide.
it might be too late already. It might be
Could be.
too late already.
Yeah.
Might be too
You know
late.
what? The next fight, if the next fight is gonna look the same, you know, ugly way that
Yeah.
Machuna fight was, very tough and just essentially just overwhelming opponent through either the opponent will gas or just catching him with something good. Then we might see the whole thing accelerate.
Might be interesting. It might be. I think if they're going to make those changes, they'll probably make those changes now. It sounds to me that they'll make the change beforehand, because that getting rocked like that wouldn't have helped matters. It would have just made matters to the point where they think, you know what, we need to bring somebody else on board. Good chance to get Bashir out of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that could very well happen very soon.
And what can Vlad say? What can Vlad say? I don't know.
I don't think he has enough. Well, just to wrap it up, right? I don't think he has enough experience and hindsight the way Mr. Bashir has. Bashir been in boxing for over 40 years. That would that's way more than Vlad has lived. So he can't read. My opinion is he cannot read the writing on the wall just yet. That these changes are not all productive.
No, absolutely. And you look at it. Bashir's had the Usyk situation, then the way in the Klitschko Shields and the whole him getting injured, and then now the Sirenko situation. Boxing hasn't treated him very well at all, has it? Oh, nope. And forget that. Before that, the Jonathan Banks situation with Klitschko.
Oh yeah.
Well, he should have been head trainer.
Should have been.
It's not good. It's not good. Let's just hope.
Right, well.
Let's hope for the best.
Yep.
And pray that Bashir can come through with this on top. Okay, Eugene, thank you so much as always.
All right, been a pleasure talking to you.
Yep, and we'll talk soon.
All right, talk to you soon.
Take care, champ. Bye.